All right. Morning, everybody. 11/28, May 28th, 2021. We have a rare occurrence here in Michigan. We've got, after a spring of no rain, our spring period here has been drier or as dry as the historical drought of 1988. However, in the last week, we have gotten, hey, Jackie, see Gerald Farms is here. How's things down there in South Carolina? I'm just talking about our dry spring and the fact that we're finally getting a little bit of rain in the last week. We've probably got about 3 inches of rain now. And I'm just kind of wondering. Okay, bone dry down there, Jackie says. So I saw Jackie, you were mowing, you were mowing some hay with a rotary mower. I guess that was because it got frosted and damaged, and it will not regrow. Is that how those grasses do it down there? It's totally different than what we have here. We have, our cool season grasses that they pretty much produce in the spring. And yeah, thanks, Jackie, about that we're getting rain. So yeah, our cool season grasses, which mainly are orchardgrass, timothy, and brome, we get the most bang for our buck in the spring. They do produce if we get a really wet summer, we'll get another cutting. And but if we don't get much rain in the summer, typically our summers are pretty dry and the grass is going to what's called a summer slump. And they start coming out of dormancy like in August if we get rain. And usually we'll get a cutting like in the fall in September, and then, maybe even in October. The wild card is in the fall is that if you gotta have warm enough weather. We can get cold, wet, damp weather in the fall, kind of like what we're getting right now. It's in the 40s right now. It was in the 40s last night. The night before it was in the mid 40s. It got in the low 60s yesterday, but today we got one of those kind of real cold rains, and I think it's going to get in the 50s. But it's just a long day, all day soaker, which, I'm fine. I'm fine with that. 94. Yeah. So see, there you go. 94 in South Carolina. And that's the thing, when you get the hot days, even if you're in an area where you get a lot of rain, like I heard Missouri gets more rain than anybody east of the Mississippi, but it can get hot and dry there, and things can get droughty. Here in Michigan, even though we are the Great Lakes state, we're surrounded by water, we end up with, we got the least amount of rain of anybody east of the Mississippi. So, we can get hot, dry summers here. And I'd say lately in the last few years, we've had some pretty hot, dry summers. It's made getting hay dry pretty easy. But, I was talking to an extension agent yesterday, Cable Thurlow out of Gladwin County. He's a area crops and forage and beef cattle guy. And we've got grass in some areas this tall, that usually would be a lot taller, like waist high by now. And now it's out of that boot stage, and it's going to put the seed head on. And I was talking to some other farmers yesterday, and they think that we have that it's getting that seed head a couple weeks early. I don't think so. I think every year we start getting seed heads coming up, right around the 1st of May here in southeast Michigan. So, but I saw timothy this tall with the conical timothy seed head yesterday. And so the question is, so we're getting rain now. I mean, we've got a decent amount of rain in the last week. I'm not saying it's made up exactly for all the dry weather that we've had already, but it's like, do you cut that hay now, get it off the field, and take advantage of the moisture now that's coming into that upper soil layer, so it'll start kicking in early because it's early enough in the spring yet where that we're not going to have all that summer heat just yet that might pound that grass into submission and make it go dormant, And so the question is, do we cut now, or are we going to get any more yield? Get any more growth? So, Cable asked a question to Kim Cassida up at MSU. She's kind of the head forage person up there. And she had said that once the flag leaf has formed, so that's that top leaf on your grass, we're talking our orchard grass and all that. Yeah, and Jackie says Mike could cut it now and get a second cutting. Well, he's right. That's kind of what the consensus was. And I've thought about it because I have so much acreage and hay to do. And opportunity is everything. I've had years where I've cut hay in late May, and then we had 3 weeks of cold, wet rain, and you couldn't get back in the field. So I've always cut this grass, starting to cut the second to third week of May if it's ready. And usually it seems to balance out. The grass definitely is not yielded out. You don't get a high yield when you cut that early, but you get a regrowth right away that early in the summer. And it'll give you a nice second cutting of grass that you might never get otherwise, I mean, last year I was cutting in June and it got hot and dry, and I went out to, the grass never got higher than this until September. It started to grow again, and it was just horrible. So I say it all balances out. If you have a chance to go cut, at least in this climate, you go bale it. And the consensus was that, what will happen is once that flag leaf, which that's where that seed head comes out, you've gone past the boot stage. The thing that will happen is that seed head stalk will grow taller, gives you more straw, which if you want yield, and I'm selling mostly to horse people, let's do the yield. I'm not doing dairy hay. It's still going to be adequate nutrition for horses. I really want, as a guy selling hay, I want yield. Okay. And any hay I cut, it's going to be good enough for my beef cows, but I think you probably balance out better getting two average cuttings versus one good cutting and no nothing else afterwards. So you're talking about that yield versus maturity if you have the luxury to do that. Me, I cut hay when I have time to get the hay when the weather's good. And so, because a lot of people are a little bit worried. Jackie said, that's why I bush hog the frost damaged hay to stimulate it to grow. Now, Jackie, you couldn't bale that. That's what we got totally different grasses. You got those warm season grasses. I don't even know what your stuff really looks like, but there was no way to mow that with a hay mower and at least round bale it to salvage it for beef cows. That's what I don't get, because that kind of sucks. You got to spend that money mowing. You're going over that field. Looked like you had a pretty big mower, so you had a pretty nice rotary mower. All I got is a little 5-foot rotary 3-point hitch mower. So, and then this year, right now, our first cutting yields on grass hay are probably 50% of normal. So that's why this conversation I had yesterday with Cable, with another farmer locally here, Joe, we were all talking and saying, holy cow, what are we going to do for hay? Because a lot of us have cattle. So we're feeding our cow. Number one, we want hay for our cows for the winter, for the brood cows. Number two, we make our money selling hay. So for me, it's long game. It's like, am I going to have enough money to pay the bills for the winter? If I got 50% of normal hay yield, which we had 50% of normal hay yield last summer, because like Jackie talked, you got frost down there. We got frost. We didn't have to go out and mow the hay. Our grasses will regrow after that frost. It just burns the top of that orchard grass back. But it cut the yield by 50% last year. So we're going to have two summers with 50% first cut yield. So Jackie says he could have baled it, but he didn't need that much cow hay. Oh, okay. Well, hey, Jackie, that's good. You're in the luxury there that you didn't need it. That's good for you. He says, plus the expense of raking and baling. Okay, so in Jackie's case, it was just cheaper to go ahead and rotary mow that damaged hay, And when did you get frost down there that far south? You guys must have had a really late spring frost, huh? Of Gordon Bright. Hey, Gordon, where are you? Where are you from, Gordon? I don't think I've seen Gordon before. We're just talking about our drought that we had here in southeast Michigan. The hay is producing absolutely horribly, and now we're getting rain. So now we're like, hey, do we get out there and cut? And I think now, I mean, of course, now looking at the weather, we got starting tomorrow for a few days. It looks like we're going to have dry weather, but it looks like we're going to have nights down in the 50s and days in the low 70s. I'm not going to gamble there. Okay, Gord's down in North Carolina. Okay, so he's a southern guy like Jackie. Do you do hay down there? Wow, Jackie got frost 3.5 weeks ago. Wow, I don't think we've had frost for 3 weeks, and we didn't have a really hard killing frost. For us, it's got to be like 25 degrees or lower to really hurt that tall orchard grass. When our grass starts growing in 1st of April, our grass and alfalfa and clovers, when they're really small, they're designed to take quite a bit of frost, So, wow, that must have been a freak thing for you guys. Get frost 3, and did that ruin your blueberries or anything? Were they blooming down there yet? Because I know you said you got quite a few blueberries growing and stuff. But yeah, anyways, for us, I think I try to cut as soon as I think I can cut, starting mid-May. It's not every year you can bale in May up here, because for us, it's the humidity. It's not just days without rain. You got to have that low humidity. If you, for me, typically, before I cut hay, I always look at what the predicted cloud cover is going to be. So, and then what's the humidity? They'll have that relative humidity predictor on like the National Weather Service website. Okay, so Gordon, you used to doing commercial chicken houses now. Oh yeah, a lot of chickens down there, I think. Michigan, we typically don't do a lot of commercial chicken industry here, but there is Herbrick's Poultry Ranch over in Ionia, and they've just gotten enormous. They're along the expressway here in Michigan, and they got egg layers. I don't know if they do broilers, but they're pelletizing their chicken litter, and selling that. And a lot of people are using that because of the nitrogen source, and every time fertilizer prices go up, the chicken litter goes up real high. But I know down south you hear people talking about chicken and turkey litter because I think there's a lot more of it down there, So yeah, anyways. So I think we're good to cut hay up until our first cutting grass is in pretty good shape maturity wise till about the 2nd or 3rd week in June. That's when the pollen, it starts really. Right now it's out of the boot and it's developing that seed head. It still grows taller. According to Kim Cassidy at MSU, she's saying the leaves, your basal leaves around the seed head stalk, pretty much aren't going to enlarge or grow much bigger once that seed head grows. Okay, Jackie grows Bermuda. Is it all Bermuda? You guys do that? What is it? Bahia grass? And what is coastal? Is that the same as Bermuda? So I've heard 3 terms down there: coastal, Bermuda, and Bahia. Or I don't think I'm pronouncing that right. But yeah. But anyways, I think we're good. This problem we always have with our grass is if we don't cut it early enough, we can still have a wet June where you got a lot of ground moisture in the ground. You lay that hay down, it's not really drying good, and so delayed first cutting harvest. You'll get that orchard grass turn into straw. And I'm talking about orchard grass mostly. We could be talking about Timothy and smooth brome grass. We grow a lot of Timothy, but orchard grass is like the biggest one because you do get more regrowth for 2nd, 3rd cuttings on orchard grass. Timothy doesn't seem to be a big producer like that. And around here, Timothy grows good in wet fields, in wet years. And like last year, we had late frost. knocked that orchard grass back tremendously, and we had Timothy all over the place in some fields, and you don't see it every year. But only thing I'm speculating is that orchard grass canopy got burned back quite a bit by the frost, and then that Timothy maybe is always there but wasn't able. Sometimes maybe it's got to have a good enough jump to get a seed head growth on it. So yeah. Okay, so Jackie's taken off. So but I think really with the first cutting cool season grasses, you just cut them, at least in this climate, get them baled when you can. And as long as you're done by July 4th, I think you're going to have a marketable enough hay for horse quality hay. After that, you still, there's years where a lot of the first cutting isn't getting done till late anyways. And everybody just has to deal with that. And typically, you do a late first cutting, you're not going to, on grass hay, you're not going to get your second cutting till the fall. And then you're always playing that game. Hey, there's Jacob Furcheck. He's in from taking care of bottle calves finally. All right, so I was just talking to Jacob the other night. Saw him at the Farm Bureau meeting, and Jacob's going to come and run baler for me. And we were kind of talking about doing hay this week, right, Jacob? But now we're not sure about this next week if we're going to do hay. I'm looking at the forecast, and that window's closed up a little bit. That window really hasn't expanded a whole lot. So not sure about getting hay done next week. And now we're looking at rain on and off all next week. So here we go. If we're in late May and you're like, boy, I'd really like to be cutting some hay right now. Now you're looking forward all into next week. We might not do hay at all next week. And what I was going to do was probably, if it was going to be hot and dry, or even just cool but dry, a lot of days of sunlight and low humidity weather, I was probably going to get into some alfalfa seeding, some new fields that have some weeds coming in, some annual broadleaves that I really don't want them to take over any more than they are. And I wanted to get in there and really whack them down. That strategy could change now. Now, if we only have, grass hay dries easier. If we have 2 or 3 good grass drying days, and I don't think I can get alfalfa dry, I might whip into some of them thin grass fields because I know I can get something dry. Because we're losing, if we start really losing our drying weather and going to a wet period here, the strategy changes from which fields you're going to cut. If it's hot, dry, prolonged period, when you got, your legume fields, which around here got alfalfa, got clover, usually white and red clover. Usually white clover is really in your pastures, but we got medium red clover in hay fields. And then you got bird's foot trefoil. Trefoil and red clover, you better have good, hot, dry weather to get those dry. I would say, yeah, trefoil and clover do not dry down near as good as alfalfa. Alfalfa crimps better, in the roller machines and your conditioner rolls than what trefoil and red clover does. It just doesn't, I don't think you get conditioned as good. It's got, especially trefoil, just because it has that really, really thin stem. So has anybody else out there baled any hay yet? See, we got 4 people watching. All right. Well, I think midday, rainy day, sitting inside, I will probably call it a day. And I'll probably end this live stream and probably head out and get wet eventually. I can only stay inside the house for so long. But Jacob's just in doing video games. Okay. How about doing something productive instead? What are you playing? Farming Simulator? Is that what you're doing, Jacob? All right. That's where I wish I had a nice big indoor shop to work on equipment, because that's where I'd be doing right now. Right now I got my disc buying is still in pieces. Oh yeah. Charger Mopar came inside for air conditioning. So yeah, you said it's dry down there in Florida, right? Dry in Florida. Oh, Ma says hi, Jacob says. Okay, tell Mom I said hi. Tell him hi. Jacob and I were talking about doing a live stream maybe next week or something. And he wanted to do one tonight, but I'm going over to my girlfriend's tonight, so we'll be doing that. But yeah, so I got problems with my hay mower. Yeah, I have a bunch of hydraulic hoses to make. Okay, no rain for weeks in Florida. Yeah, I was surprised about Florida. I had never been down there till a few years ago. My mother lives in Central Florida, so I go down there once a year now. I won't fly anymore on any of the communist airlines, so I won't fly anymore. So I'm probably not going to go see her. She comes up, stays for 4 months with me in the summer, anyways. But I was surprised how hot and dry Florida. I mean, I know, not surprised it gets hot, but it was like they get drought down there. And I mean, the summer, they have a summer slump. I thought I'd never been down there in summer, but I would go like late winter or early spring. And I thought there would just be lush grass growing everywhere. And what I saw was blow sand and short. I never been down there when it was really good grazing season. I mean, it was dry down there. So, and it seems like in that sand, obviously the problem they have, if they get rain, it just dries up really quick down there, So, but anyways, I got to get my disc bind back together as I keep working on it. Oh, okay. Your legs are too long for the plane. Okay. Wow. How is it your height or it's your overall leg length is too long? Wow. Why you started growing in 2005? Is that what happened? It's the only place you can get a desert on the ground with 90% humidity. Yeah. Yeah, that's the way it was. We went and visited one guy down there in Florida, and he was irrigating. He had to plant. He was doing baleage also. He did peanut hay, so he had to plant the peanuts every year. The peanut hay, that was their legume hay down there. So they didn't have the luxury of what we do is putting in perennial legumes and just grow them for years. Okay, your height's 6'6", so that's too big, really. My dad's 6'5", and he flies. But I got a buddy who's 6'7", he flies. But yeah, whatever. I know it's probably pain. Okay, Jacob says, when I hear about Florida, I think limestone sinkholes. They didn't really have gravel down there. The back roads, the dirt roads were limestone. So they mined, apparently they got quarry limestone down there, not a lot of gravel. Is that correct? So I guess every part of the country, we're in an area where we have a lot of aggregate mining, a lot of gravel. So we got gravel roads. Matter of fact, one spot where I have cattle is in an old, gravel pit. It's about 130-acre gravel pit. So anyways, but yeah, as I was saying, I still don't have my New Holland 1409 disc bind all back together. I discovered another problem as I was getting ready to put everything back together from the gearbox and conditioner rolls. So it would be nice to be working on that right now. Okay, Charger Mopar says, yes, South Florida is where the sinkholes are. Okay, all right, yeah. We have coral rock that can be crushed for gravel. Okay, interesting. They mine that. They go out and mine that off the coast with big barges, I imagine. Anybody baling hay down there yet? Anybody baling hay in Florida? All right. Well, I've rambled on enough, so unless anybody has any questions or anybody else talking about their hay situation, I'm gonna sign off. No sinkhole south of Okeechobee. Okay. We have coral rock to be. Okeechobee is a good fishing for me. Yeah, I think bass fishing, right? Lake Okeechobee. Is that where I think the world record largemouths, aren't they all from Florida? They have rock pits here that later become developments. Gotcha. Yeah, they do that with gravel here, gravel pits. But we got a few more people signed in. But anyways, I was talking about that drought stunted grasses. Afterwards, we get rain. It's still late spring. Is it worth? Do you cut that hay right now, or do you try to let it grow longer? The consensus that I'm hearing from the experts is You're probably only getting seed head stalk growth. You're probably not going to get any more leaf growth. The tillering probably already happened in the spring before that grass went through the boot stage. At tillering is where you get basal shoots that come out from that root crown, and some grass species send out runners and rhizomes. Orchardgrass, a type of bunch grass, and I think Timothy and brome are very similar. I don't know if you call brome a bunch grass, but I think Timothy is. And then I think tillering starts again in the fall. And that's why, you know, if you have your pastures, if you graze the hell out of them all summer or cut the hell out of them, you stunt that regrowth. You won't get tillering in the fall for grass shoots for next winter. And, another thing I want to say, like when I'm going to start cutting grass as early as I can, it is important to have that mower height up about 4 inches high. If you're cutting those growth points on your grasses, on your cool season grasses, are pretty high off the ground. So you'll stunt that orchard grass pretty bad if you cut it too low, especially this time of year. If I'm going to cut early and I have a reduced yield because the yield is so poor because of drought, I want to get a quick regrowth. And if we keep getting rain, I will get a early second cutting growth on that hay that I normally wouldn't get till September. I might get that by around July 4th. And some of that grass will go back into the boot stage if you cut it early enough. Most of our cool season grasses will only go into that boot stage once and flower once. And then after that, they go strictly to vegetative growth. And then they don't regrow anything at all. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I am going to end this live stream, and we'll do this again someday. Talk to y'all later.